Hello YouTube, you're watching Caravan Crafted, and as promised in this video I'm going to build an oil extractor. And as you see, I'm actually changing my scooter's oil with it. So if you're interested to see how, stick until the end. So the first thing you will need for this project is an airtight reservoir tank for the used oil. I decided to use these water containers simply because they are cheap and I just had one around. But using a more solid container like a glass one would have been a better choice for this application. Well, the original cap for these containers really sucked, so I looked around for something to fit better. And guess what? The bottom half of tiny Sprite bottles is just the perfect match for this. We need to attach two connectors to the reservoir tank, and all these have to be airtight. So I carefully selected the bits and forced both connectors in. I've also used some silicone glue to make sure they are well sealed. With the help of some WD-40, I just rammed the reservoir neck into the new cap and also used a 2-inch hose clamp for security. For the oil extractors tube, at first I decided to go with silicone tubes, but at the end I changed my mind and went for nylon. Silicone is more resistive to heat, but nylon is a more solid material, and I thought it would be easier to shove it into the dipstick hole in the engine. And also turns out this is the same material used in the commercial units by the manufacturers. Because the connector on the tank was a 10mm OD and the nylon tube was a 6mm OD, I had to first use a piece of 10mm ID tube, then connect it to a 10mm OD tube, and after that use a 10 to 6mm adapter. And that's why the setup looked like this. Then I connected my portable air tank by using the custom-built high-pressure hose. But instead of filling the tank with high-pressure air, I actually sucked all the air which I could out of it using my air compressor with the technique I've showed you in my previous videos. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you can check the card for more. Let's see whether this setup works or not. As you see, I have the container on the right filled with water halfway, and the reservoir is empty. The suction tube's tip is now on the bottom of the right side container. And the vacuum tank is connected to the reservoir tank. So if I open the valve on the vacuum tank, the suction which is created in the reservoir tank will suck the water from the right side container. As you see, the water slowly starts moving into the reservoir. The reason for that is because I opened the valve very slightly and then closed it. If I open the valve at once, the water pace can't keep up with the suction, and this will happen. I wonder if I could find a stand in my scrap parts for this too. Look what I found! I used a pair of partial threaded M10 bolts and used the M10 tab to thread the holes on both sides of the stand. This way, the wheels are easily spin around the unthreaded part of the bolts. And that's why using a more solid material like glass for the reservoir tank is a better choice. But as you saw, this one will get a pass too.